Hey, what's up? So, I'm going to go over a little bit of information about cloud computing. So, I'm using the AWS documentation, and we're just going to go over this together in case you're curious about what cloud computing is, or maybe you just want to learn a little bit more about the cloud. This information is freely available. You can just go into the AWS documentation and pull any of this information anytime you want. So it's not copyrighted or anything. I'm just sharing information that I know from Amazon. So, what is cloud computing? It's an on demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay as you go pricing. So, instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, databases on an as needed basis from a cloud provider like AWS. So, when I read this, there's a couple things you need to know. One is the pay-as-you-go pricing. So a big reason that people go to the cloud is because um, you don't have to just buy everything all up front, and we'll get more into that in a minute. So you can just kind of pay for what you use when you need it. If you don't need it, you can delete it, you can rebuild it. There's a lot of services that Amazon provides that put a lot of really amazing technology right at your fingertips that you may not otherwise have access to. An example of that might be artificial intelligence or machine learning or a call center, creating a call center, things like that. So Amazon offers a number of different services, and you can use their services as much as you want. There is a free tier, but some of them do, most of them cost money, and so uh, you might need to check out your pricing before you do anything. So here's a list of all the services that they have. So there's a ton of them. So as far as knowing what cloud computing is, don't worry about that. Just know that there's a ton of options out there for you that you may not have had access to if you didn't use a cloud provider such as AWS. So who uses it? Well, pretty much everybody. Anywhere from governments, finance, healthcare, tech companies, managed service providers, schools, tons of people, NFL, the Major League Baseball, all kinds of people. So what are the benefits? Well, you got three. You got agility, elasticity, and cost savings. The deployable in minutes thing is kind of like a no-brainer. In fact, I'll just start with that. Um, you can build a server in Ireland or in Southwest Asia or in Oregon or Virginia in minutes. So it used to be, that you had to go to a data center and rent rack space and go buy equipment and all that stuff. Now you can just go build a server in Ireland whenever the heck you feel like it. So that's pretty cool. The the main three are the agility, elasticity, and cost savings. So the agility part is kind of like pacing, right? So if your business is growing fast and you need stuff quickly, you can deploy it in minutes, sometimes seconds. So your tech stack can be as agile as your business. If you have a dip in business and you need to back off to save on costs, you can do that as well. So it's not always about growth. Sometimes it's about those lulls. If you've got a slow season or there's seasonality in your workloads where maybe Saturday isn't as busy, you can take those resources and turn them off when you don't need them, or you can scale them in or down, which we'll get into, which is the elasticity part. Important things to know for agility are things like um, the orders of magnitude. So you'll see somewhere in here, you can spin stuff up, you can use all these different things, deploy in minutes, and yeah, economies of scale once you get into cost savings. So part of the agility is also associated with cost, right? And that's because you don't have to pay for stuff up front like servers. What we call that on the cloud side is a capital expense. So you can kind of trade those capital expense for variable expense. Variable being kind of like what I talked about, where you have agile services, agile servers, things that can scale in and out, up and down with you as you need them. So yeah, it's just pay as you go, pay when you use it, that kind of deal. So that's why it's so popular. And why startups use the cloud so much is because you don't need upfront capital, or you don't need somebody to fund your business to the level that you would, 20, 30 years ago. So then there's the elasticity. So think of elasticity like a rubber band, like when you stretch it out and then you let go and it comes back in. So the rubber elastic part it comes in and out from on a horizontal plane. So what we're thinking about there is provisioning. So it says you don't have to over provision resources up front to handle peak levels of business activity. I kind of talked about this a couple times already. So you can still scale those resources up or down to grow instantly and shrink capacity as your business needs change. Another thing worth knowing, some people make a differentiation between elasticity and scaling up and down. It is possible to have a server with, like, say, 4 cores and 8 gigs of RAM and change that to 8 cores and 16 gigs of RAM, which is hard to do in the real world without, going through a purchasing process. However, what you can't do in the real world that you can do with virtualized hardware in the cloud is you can go down and say, I don't need 8 cores and 16 gigs anymore. I just need 4 cores and 8 gigs. And that's totally something you can do. And they've even got some things we'll talk about where you can take servers, and if your web server gets busy, you can create 2 web servers or 3 and have it do it automatically. If you've got a lot of traffic, maybe there's a sale going on or something. And then as soon as everybody goes to bed, stops using your website, whatever, the servers can just uh, tear themselves down, and you can go back to one, which saves you money. In a physical environment, you would have those 3 servers up all the time, and you kind of have to operate at your maximum potential level. So if you're on a web server and you're going to hit some massive, huge sale every Saturday, well, however many servers you need for Saturdays, how many servers are you going to have to run all the time? So in the cloud, you don't. You have that elasticity where you can kind of scale in and out, up and down as needed whenever it makes sense for your business. So that's pretty much it. If you understand who uses the cloud, kind of how it works, the pay-as-you-go pricing, that you've got access to a multitude of different services. It provides agility, elasticity, and significant cost savings by trading capital expense for variable expense, which saves you even more money as you look at economies of scale as you get bigger. Um, and that you can go anywhere in the world in minutes, then that's pretty much what you need to know about cloud computing. But there's one more section of 3 key points on the types of cloud computing worth going over, and those are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. You'll hear this like PaaS, SaaS, IaaS, as it's pronounced a couple different ways. Um, this would be like a virtual server where you don't have to worry about the hardware, and you can just build a Linux server or build a Windows server or whatever you need to do, and you don't have to worry about getting hardware. Um, and where PaaS would be more like a service that runs with the hardware that you can use. Um, Maybe you're scaling stuff out to run your application on a server or in a container or something, and then you don't have to worry about the underlying host. So you don't have to worry about patching, Windows patching, Linux patching, kernel patching, any of that other stuff. It takes a lot of the security out of your hands as well. And then the last one is software as a service. So think like Gmail, so any or Salesforce or whatever. So if you go online and use any of those Quicken, TurboTax, whatever, where you can just log in and use an application as you needed, you don't need to worry about building anything, then that would be software as a service. So yeah, there you go. Um, those are the 3 types of cloud computing, and we already went over the top part, so hopefully you know a little bit more about cloud computing and why it's important, who uses it, what the benefits are, and the different types of cloud computing models. So, anyways, if you have questions, let me know. But if not, then I hope that helps.